What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Reseller Greatness Podcast. We got Benji on, and Benji is a seller from across the pond, young guy, as we see. I told him before this, I appreciate him from coming on. He said this is his first thing that he's kind of ever done on social media. And I said, well, we won't get you canceled this episode. And Benji said, don't put your money on it. So Benji might be looking to get canceled in his first episode, his first foray into social media and exposing himself to the world. So we'll try to keep Benji out of trouble, but Benji, he runs a great business, sell women's clothing, out of the back of a barbershop, which is pretty interesting. So life in the UK is a little different than like life in the USA, but you know, when you get lemons, you got to make lemonade, and you guys are doing the best that you got with what you got, and you don't have bins. There's not a massive amount of waste like there is in the United States from, all accounts of what you guys have said. Arwen was here for a couple of weeks, and we have the UK call in the group, which you are very vocal in. And the things that you say, the things that you talk about, the questions you ask, I find a lot of value in. So that's kind of, why I asked you to be on the podcast, because you are very inquisitive, much like Isaiah. You are very inquisitive like Isaiah. You ask smart questions, the right questions. And I, for one, enjoy listening to that. And I, for one, enjoy when we do engage in the conversation. So I appreciate you jumping on here today.
No
Women's
problem.
clothing seller from the UK, young guy making his way. How's everything? How's life, man? Tell us a little bit
Well,
about yourself.
firstly, I do both. I do men's and women's.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. Always have. I ask a lot of questions about women's because it's much more technical. I feel
gotcha.
like whenever in calls or I have questions, it's normally about women's clothing. One, because as a guy, not familiar at all.
Right?
Uh, and two, there's much more nuance in terms of like styles, keywords, all sorts
Hmm.
of stuff. So it feels like I have more questions to ask. So yeah, but I do say a lot of things in the UK, cool, sometimes probably too many things. But yeah, I'm nosy, I'm inquisitive, I like answers to things. So I like talking to people in general. I find it really interesting and finding about how other people's brains work and how they run their business. So yeah, I'm really interested in that sort of thing. And again, I was saying to Tech before this, I think this is one of the few times we properly interacted. So there's all sorts of things we could go into because I'm not sure he knows too much about me, and I don't know too much about him realistically, even though I'm in the group. But I think it's gonna be interesting.
So how did you get started on eBay? How did you find out the wonderful world of eBay?
It was my girlfriend actually. When I was younger, I used to go to car boots with my dad all the time, which is the equivalent to a flea market over
Hmm.
there. And I used to buy stink bombs. And I don't know if you've ever seen them, but there's these little things that you throw on the ground that make a snapping noise.
That's right.
I used to buy them and then sell them at school. Uh, and that was my first introduction to car boot sales. And eventually, someone in my school stole all my stuff from the
Okay.
bag because it was a bit of a nuisance child, and she got caught with it all straight away, and straight away told on me, and then they came and confiscated all my money and all my stuff. So that was my first introduction to car boot sales. But coming back around from that, my girlfriend grew up doing car boot sales with her mum. And then she was like, "Oh, we should go to one. It would be fun." I was like, "Yeah, I'm down," because I did it when I was younger. And then I was going around, and I don't really buy much stuff. I don't care for, any clothes or knickknacks or anything like that. I'm not too possessive. Um, and I was like, "Oh," but the excitement that there was stuff out there that was kind of like treasure as such was cool. And I wanted to kind of gain some knowledge on that. So I went to YouTube, as you do, and found the reselling community in the UK and some of the people overseas eventually. And yes, found James and everything. But so
Uh-huh.
we started binge watching loads and loads of YouTube videos, went down a complete rabbit hole, and then slowly started to try it out. At first, it was very nerve-wracking. Didn't want to spend too much money or anything like that.
Right.
And then it started to go better and better, and it went really well. And then car boot season ended, and then I was in the charity shops, and then slowly, I had a business, and I was like, oh, might as well go full time and try properly. Uh, and there we are.
So what was kind of the first thing where you said this could work?
I don't know. I don't think that the first thing that said this could work. to me, there was no like one stage where this could work. One of the first things I did when I started was joined a Discord group of one of the YouTube sellers.
Mhm.
Uh, and in that group, there was already some bigger sellers at the time that I thought were bigger sellers anyway. And they were doing like 12K 90 day and stuff like that. And that was like, whoa, that's crazy. Uh, I can't believe that's possible with this. And then I kind of worked my way up from that. And again, watching the YouTubers and seeing what they were capable of doing, I was very confident I could do the same thing. And then eventually I found my way to Chris, and then into the group, and then the whole world opens up of what's actually possible on here. But I never, it just made sense in my head. Like it just made sense with the amount that you can get and how it was going. And as long as you understand the principles, it just made sense that it was kind of an unlimited cap depending on how much you could get in. Uh,
How does it make sense? What explain that?
well, the model just is so simple. Like
Yeah.
in terms of reselling, right? The margins in this game when you're going to buy stuff and everything, and you can take something, especially at the flea markets or car boots, you can take something you find for one, two, three, four, £5 and flip it into 30, 40, 50, £60, uh, is just, oh, okay. Well, if I can do that, then I can do it again and again and again and again. And one, I can buy more things, and then I can buy more things, and then we can make more money and more money. And like that basic kind of you know, model just makes so much sense and is very easy to understand. And because you can look up how well things sell on eBay and what things do sell, and you can check comps, it makes it very, very simple. Uh, so even if you're new, as long as you understand how to research something properly, and what that means, then you can feel very confident buying and understanding that it's going to work, even though you might be nervous at first.
Absolutely. So, as you said, even if you're new, as long as you know how to research, how were you researching back then and how has your research evolved?
Oh, good question. I want to throw that back at you as well.
Okay.
So when I started, first it was just listening to people. So it was like the people I was watching on YouTube, I was looking what they were picking up. They would flash up comps and be like, "This is how much you sell for." Some of them are a bit misleading at times, but there's a big duo in the UK called the Luxury Pickers,
Mhm.
and they are massive, like high-end luxury sellers as such. But they do really narrated commentary on all their YouTube videos, and that was something I binge watched all the way back, and that kind of gets all the stuff turning in your head as to what to look out for. And then after that, I started to figure out, okay, what I'd only looked at solds. I never looked at actives. I was like, okay, this sells for money. That's good. Good news. And then I bought it. And then I quite quickly figured out with again binge watching that sell through was a thing.
Okay.
Um, and then once I understood that, I started with like okay, if it's 0.5% sell through, then it's good. And then I was like, oh, okay, actually that means it's a bit slower than I'd like. And then it became 100% sell through. Uh, and then yeah, that's kind of where it's stuck at. And now I try and take more risks actually than I did at the start,
Hmm.
in terms of sell through, because I think once you understand certain things, uh, you can kind of get an idea that even if the sell through says something else, you can be like, oh, this style, this size, this the coolness factor you've said before, will mean my quality of listing means that it will sell faster than the data is telling me,
Right.
in my opinion. Or you could do more in-depth data research, but you just go off the general one and you can be like, oh, I know what I've got here. I'm going to take a risk with this one and see how it goes.
Very good. So for me, how I started off researching, I don't even know if they had sold comps back then. If they did, I didn't know how to find them. So I was just looking at what the market was, and I would get kind of a lay of the land, and I would usually price my items under market or try to be the best offer or the cheapest. Because back then I was very desperate and I needed the money very quickly. I was a single dad. My son was very young. He was in elementary school. I was a roommate at the time. My son didn't even have a bed. He slept on a pull-out couch at that time. So like I needed the money. And I used to do this tiered sale. This is how bad I needed money. I used to do a tiered markdown every single Wednesday. So even if I listed this item on Monday, if it was Wednesday, I would mark it down um, almost the equivalent of probably 10 or 20%. So if I had it listed at 29.99, I would mark it down to 22.22. The next week it would be 19.99, then $12.12. If it was on the other side, if I had something for 49.99, it would be 42.22, 39.99, 32.22. So in like 3 weeks after already pricing starting out very aggressive, 3 weeks later, it could go from very aggressive, 49.99 to $32. So my stuff was turning very quickly. And that's kind of how I learned um, the market for price. And when something did sell, I figured out how fast it sold and at what price. Did I start out too high? Did I start out too low? Once I did find the wonderful world of the solds, I don't know if they were there or not, but maybe I didn't know how to find them. I didn't know how to look. And that strategy went on for a long time. When I found out the wonderful world of solds, then I was pricing against the solds, but I was still very aggressive in my price and I was still doing the aggressive markdowns. After that, I learned the sell through, like you were talking about. No one was talking about sell through. This is before YouTube. This is before iPhones. Like it was a very different world, young Benji. It was very different before YouTube and iPhones. I learned sell through figuring out how many were active, how many were sold in the given time frame. And sell through became paramount, especially in the beginning because I needed the money. Um, and that was one of my focuses. So if I was going to make a lot of money on an item, I was okay with it taking longer to sell. If the margin was going to be smaller, I needed the sell through rate to be higher. So after that, I, tried to absorb as much as possible. Every single item I sold, I would go out and replace it and buy another one. If it sold again, I would go out and buy two more. If it sold again, I would go out and buy three more. If the same item sold again, I would go out and buy five more. An example would be just a Tommy Bahama silk shirt with a nice pattern. If I bought one, it sold, I would try it and get two. If I bought the two, those sold, I would try it and get four. So like it wasn't so much of like relying on the actual data that eBay told me because maybe the data wasn't great. It was more so of learning the old-fashioned way. I bought one, it sold, let me try it again. I bought one, it sold, let me try it again. This one didn't sell. Now it's been marked all the way down, very aggressive by $10 every single week, and it's not selling. So maybe the first time was a fluke. That one would get eliminated. But if I bought one, sold it, bought two, sold it, bought four, sold it, and bought eight, and this thing is still selling in the same kind of capacity, now I'm buying all of them every single time I see it. And that became an item that became on my brands. And I usually had maybe 20 or 30 brands at all times that I would sell. That was my focus. And then I would go into the comps and I would always sort by high because I don't want to get caught slipping. I was still in this scared mind state where if I had a polo item and I listed it, bang, it sold immediately. I would be like, what happened? And then I would do further research and go, oh, that's because it's from 1993, CP93, the sailing line. I listed it for $29.99. It's worth $299. I got caught slipping, which is fine. I had to I had to pay for that education. So what I would do on my research part in the very beginning was always sort by high because I was always scared to get caught slipping. And by sorting by high, I would come across these items where okay, CP93 sailing stuff. If I ever see it again, this kind of color, this kind of pattern, this kind of style, I need to come back in here and I need to sort by high and I need to try to find it. Okay, 1992, the stadium stuff. It's worth a lot of money if I ever find it. So I just happened to come across these things as I was sorting by high because I didn't want to get caught slipping. And then it came to my realization that let me just take a brand and sort by high so I can be on the lookout for these types of items. And that's really how I developed my Rolodex was a lot of times sorting by high, a lot of times knowing the cream of the crop or the one-off items and specific brands, specific styles and lines that do command a premium. And I would be on the lookout for that. So even though I did a sort by high for maybe Ralph Lauren and their sailing stuff went for a lot of money, Maybe I go to the thrift store and I see a Tommy Hilfiger sailing gear jacket. That's close enough because we couldn't look it up out in the field. I would have to go
Mhm.
home and look it up and come back. So I say, okay, Tommy Hilfiger, it sells okay, but this one is also sailing where Ralph Lauren commands a premium for sailing. Let me take a gamble on this one. And then you pick up the Tommy Hilfiger sailing gear stuff, and now that commands a premium. So now let me deep dive Tommy Hilfiger. Let me deep dive this. Let me deep dive this. And that's how I did my research back then with the limited resources that were available. Now we have phones. Now we have Google Lens. Now we have Terapeak, which goes back 3 years. You used to have to pay for Terapeak. That was its own
Mhm.
site where eBay acquired it, and now it's called Product Research. So we have all of this knowledge, all of this research, as you're saying, YouTube videos. There wasn't people putting out YouTube videos in the same amount of capacity,
Mhm.
teaching BOLOs, what to look for, hauls, things like that. And when those did start coming up, I did start watching them. I did also join a group a long time ago, a Facebook group called the Resellers Roundtable. That one gave me a lot of knowledge, man. A lot of knowledge, just people in there posting what they were doing, posting what they were sold. A lot of my knowledge about snapback hats, which we have the hat deep dive in the group, a lot of that knowledge came from that group. A lot of the knowledge about jerseys, a lot of that was my introduction to all of that stuff was being around people that were better than me, being around people that were more knowledgeable than me, and just me soaking in 1% of that. So I think there was a point where I figured out that this could work, where I kind of came became obsessed with knowing as much as possible about it so that way I could do the best as possible. Now, let me tell you this in school, complete opposite. No, thank you. I don't care. But this, for some reason, unlocks something inside of me where I need to acquire the most amount of knowledge because with the acquisition of knowledge is a direct correlation of the acquisition of dollar bills in this business. The worst thing that we could do as resellers is pass by profitable inventory.
So I got a whole load of questions from that, to be honest with you.
Let's rock
Uh,
and roll.
my first one generally is it. So obviously you said you did your comps and your research high to low most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Two things on that. Would you do it the same now? If you actually, so if you wanted to be the most efficient you could and do the thing that would benefit you the most as a reseller, would you do high to low comp research, or would you do, because in my head, so in my head I'm like high to low comp research is great, right? But these are a lot of the time very niche things that you're not going to find super often, compared to the average thing which you're going to come across all the time, and knowing in the average thing what the more not premium as such but higher value items are.
Right.
So I feel like going high to low on that, especially on common brands, is not the best way to do research, in my opinion, or to let to give you the best advantage and make you the most efficient going out, so you come back with the most stuff. So would you still stick to doing it that way?
I would
If
do two things, and this is what I do today. I would do high to low because I want to know that stuff because that stuff is adjacent and correlates to other brands as well.
do you
So
think
it,
that's in all cases? Do you think that's true?
absolutely. If you find a vicuña something in some kind of brand, vicuña is going to be very expensive in everything. So we learned that. If you find a certain pattern or a certain material that is commands a premium in a certain brand, likelihood it's going to command a premium worldwide or in different brands. So that's one thing I want to be on the lookout for. That's one aspect. The second aspect is I always go to left-hand navigation and I always plug in my search to show me minimum $30 items. You remember how we do this on the zip code
Yeah,
call?
of course.
Because that is going to give me the spread. So I do the one search high to low, and then I do the search $30 and up. And I really focus on that $30 to $50 price range because those are the items that we're going to find at the thrift.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, right? I feel like even slightly further than that, sometimes I don't like doing comp research in terms of like actual deep dives because I find it incredibly boring, and then I my brain just goes numb and I don't want to look at it anymore. But when I do it, I like to almost put a cap on the top as well because I want the items to be bread and butter.
Right.
I don't want it to, and again, I like knowing the top stuff. Obviously, that's important, but generally the stuff that I think it makes you a more successful reseller in terms of knowledge
Yep.
is out of the stuff you see in front of you, uh, that all looks kind of the same.
Hmm.
what's worth more.
Yeah,
And
and I
that's
like
when
to target $30 to $50. That was me because I
exactly.
think I think if it's over $50, especially this day and age, it's too easy to put it on Vinted. It's too easy to put it on OfferUp. It's too easy to put it on Facebook Marketplace, or we keep it. 30 to 50, I think, is that sweet spot where someone in the United States where they don't care, they'll donate it.
Interesting. So you're thinking that anything over the value of $50 is not being you're not going to see because they're selling it themselves or they're keeping
More
it.
options. There's more options because like if it's worth 75 bucks, maybe I don't donate it. If it's worth $20 or 25 or 30, I don't care. Get rid of this thing. I'll donate it. I don't care.
Interesting. I think that's true, and I got really excited today because I thought I found some Chrome Heart sunglasses that turned out to be fake, which is very
Yeah.
sad, as expected, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. But I think it depends on where you go, right? Because I think that the average person normally, if you spend up on something, you want to receive something back for that.
That's right.
So, for example, a car, right? If you spend up on it, if you're paying for a car, it's normally even a secondhand, more useless car is still a couple of grand.
Right.
And even if when you come to sell it, you still want something back from it.
Exactly. You're not going
Even
to
if it,
donate it to the charity shop.
yeah, it's not just you don't just scrap every car you get because you're getting a new car.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
But interesting. I think people do though. If you get to certain areas where, like you said, in America, it's more cultural to uh, have overconsumption and just throw things away. Uh,
Hmm.
with wealth, certain levels of wealth,
Same.
it's just like, oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah. It
And
doesn't matter.
I know a guy who clears house for footballers.
Yeah.
So he basically works for a football agent, and that's soccer, not American football. Uh,
Yes.
and he basically the agent goes, I need you to go clear this guy's house. He's moving. Uh, and the stuff they just leave everything
They
behind.
don't care.
That not a single like a whole safe full of watches, like premium watches, clothes, designer furniture, everything. You
Mhm.
just go get rid of it, and they're meant to just throw it away, take it to the dump or the whatever. But a lot of them try and sneak it out and do something
Sure.
else. But it's really interesting that sort of philosophy with people. But then you get the opposite, right? So something I've started doing recently is I'm trying to work my way into clearing people's houses for them, and not everything, not just like taking everything, but going to their house and buying their clothes that they're planning on throwing out, and doing that sort of thing. But one thing I'm very fearful of running into is the idea of the retail versus used market value system because I'm coming from a used market value system and I know how much it's worth there. But all these people have paid ridiculous amounts of money for some of this stuff,
Sure.
uh, and then offering them something that is based on the used market because the depreciation on clothes in general
Crazy.
is a joke. Like people talk about cars, you can pay even for designer stuff, you can pay £800, and then suddenly it's worth like 150.
Or even less sometimes. Like
Well, some people don't care at all.
small pony polo shirt is $112.50. You could walk into any thrift store in America and buy it for $5.
I'm also so disconnected from retail in my head. Like when I think about the price of anything, it's when you saying that is 100 and did you say 112
$112.50. It
is
used to be
mental.
92.50. They've raised the price on them, Benji.
It's so crazy to think of what stuff's actually worth. Like because it you again you just we our whole value system is based around what we can buy it for and what we can sell it for. And that
Hmm.
market is just so different from the absolute heights of retail. It's so
So what are
funny.
you struggling with or thinking about with the clean outs? Like you're saying, they're spending $112.50 on a small pony Ralph shirt, and you got to go in there and say, I can give you $2 because it's worth 12.
Yeah. And I think I've talked to a lot of people about there's a few fears when it comes to going to people's houses, especially if they don't know you or haven't met you before, and
Hmm.
also being a guy and doing that because I think it becomes slightly more intimidating in some ways. But that is one of them. I basically have tried to work out how to make it as smooth and not awkward as possible because you don't want to be arguing with someone in their house about the value of the clothes they've bought.
No,
Because that's
not a good
just
look.
your reputation doing something like this and how it feels it went and how easy and how how benefited the person you're working for feels is really important. So I don't want to be there and be like, oh, she's like, oh, I paid £250 for this, and I'm like, I'll give you 15.
Right,
uh,
right.
so I think a massive part of it is managing expectations going in, is what I'm thinking about and how I'm going to work for that. And basically having them understand the perspective I'm coming from and what sort of ballpark I'm going to be in before I get there. Because if I get there and then start working on that, it's already too late, and I'm already in an awkward predicament in someone else's house, which I don't want to be disrespectful in.
How do you set the expectation?
So my general idea at the moment, this is a very fresh idea. I did a tester the other day with a
I
woman.
saw the haul. It was pretty nice. You did pretty good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. The men's side of things was really good for me because it's funny. Because women again buy a lot more fast fashion. So, but men buy like one-offs and then wear them for ages. So
Hmm.
all his stuff was basically, yeah, I wear this and I love it. Whereas her is like, oh, I just kind of bought that and I thought it might be nice and then I didn't use it.
Right.
Um, but the idea currently is I'm gonna set up a business WhatsApp. And I'm basically whenever I get in contact with someone or my name gets passed to someone, they're gonna get my business WhatsApp number. And then before I meet them, I'm gonna ask them to basically send me a snapshot of what they have to offer as such, so I don't waste their time and I don't waste my own time. And then after we've kind of concluded that, it's worthwhile, is basically have a list of things, probably a pre-made kind of text, to send over and kind of explain how things will work and what it looks like, and give them the idea and again manage their expectations before going in and see if they are comfortable with that and understand that that is going to be the way this will go. Uh, so that's the hope. And also I'm going to try basically going to who I want to target is private schools. I don't know if private schools kind of work the same in the US. But again, private schools here are where all the wealthy go. It's where the mums and the dads have far more clothes than they need. And they're all normally, designer bits because going to a private school basically implies that you are wealthy unless you go on a scholarship or something like that. So my goal is to target the parents of that. Uh, and I think I'm going to start try and go to school fairs and like have a stall. So again, they can see me face to face. We can talk about it beforehand, and anyone can get an idea of what I'm trying to do before they reach out to me. And maybe also have a tester rail, so they can see the type of stuff I buy. And again, we'll give them the idea as to whether it's worth bringing their wardrobe to me or asking me to come round when they can kind of see what I'm looking for. And again, getting that expectation and understanding in their head before we really get anything started.
Very good. So the last time that we spoke on the UK call, we talked about kind of like thinking outside of the box and using these other strategies. And I think this is a great example of thinking outside of the box and using other strategies. So you guys don't have the bin, so that option is off the table. But we have to figure out ways to acquire product with what we have, access to. And so, all right, so you said what your target is. The target is, families of people that go to the private school. Very good. I'm on board with that. In addition to that, who are you looking for? Because what is the value add that Benji brings? Because if they're well off, they're not looking for money in most times.
That the benefit to something like this is not again the money helps, it's
Mhm.
obviously going to make it feel nicer in terms of the exchange, but the benefit it actually brings is clearing out and
That's
decluttering
right.
their space to create so they can buy more stuff they
Buy
might
more stuff,
get rid
right? Yeah.
of.
Who wants last season? Get new
Exactly.
season.
Again, these people are gonna always buy more stuff, generally, and so if I can make more space for them, because a lot of times some of them are too busy, some of them just don't want to go through the effort of like dealing with it all themselves. So
Hmm.
again, a massive part of almost any business is you are offering the convenience of something,
That's
uh,
right.
and I am offering the convenience of me going to their house and getting rid of all their stuff that they don't want, and a massive benefit that I've had to that is originally I wanted to be picky, right? Like I was going in with the mindset that what if I go there and I only take a few bits and they've got all this left, and my
Right.
benefit and my convenience isn't as great as they hoped. But I've partnered with someone at my local car boot sale who takes all the other stuff, or the
Nice.
intermediate stuff. The rubbish still goes to rubbish, because nobody wants it. But generally, I'll offer what I want for mine, and then say I'm happy to take the rest of this for you. I can offer you a couple of pounds, per piece, and this is going to go to my. I can give this to someone I know, and they'll get rid of the rest for you. And that means again, I offer far more value than if I was just going to buy for myself and couldn't clear out the rest, or I would have had to take it all and then find a different outlet. But this makes it much easier, and I didn't plan on doing that originally.
Great. So the convenience factor, the closet clear out factor, that's the angle that you want to take doing this. I think that that's the angle to go. How did you come up with this idea or get introduced to it? Where did this come from?
So a lot of my philosophy is based around doing the least work for the maximum value. Uh,
Mine too, Benji. That's the secret.
no, no, I disagree. I
No,
did.
Benji, I do the least amount of work. I make a lot of money, but I could be doing so much more work for this much money.
Oh,
I
I
sell
agree.
stuff on eBay, Benji.
Yeah, no, no, I agree. But in terms of the amount of effort you are willing to put in is very different to the amount of effort I want to put
But the
in.
payoff is disproportionate. I'm doing the least amount of work for the payoff.
Oh, yeah, obviously, but that's kind of the end goal for everyone, right? Like you want to be doing the business that makes you the most money for the least amount of work. I'm
Exactly.
talking within a reselling, let's keep it in line how much work you want to put in. You were doing 120 a day by yourself. Stop acting
But the
like
payout was crazy,
yeah,
Benji.
it's always going to be crazy the more work you do. It's not surprising, but you have to spend your whole day doing that. And that's not what I want to do. And obviously, like if that's the goal is to make the maximum payout. But again, the reason I start like I could like Arwen took away, right? I need to go to more car boot sales. I need to meet more people. I need to do more boots on the ground work. Uh,
Mhm.
and I need to basically there's more time in my day. I can use that to find more stuff and sell more stuff. I want to stay using the same amount of time I'm already using.
Sure.
And to make that a possibility, I either have to massively improve my current system. So with what I'm doing, I need to receive more stuff from
Yes.
the same actions, which is difficult, but has happened because thanks to relationship building with the people I see, that's become a possibility. But the other idea is I need to think of something that we aren't doing yet.
Hmm.
Uh, like again, that's why I was really interested when you brought that up in the call because like that's what I try and do, but simply because not because you said it in terms of I've exceeded what I can get from this avenue. I haven't exceeded what I can get from this avenue. I could work harder in this avenue, or I could take that time and figure out something else that is going to work, going to allow me to work less or the same and achieve more.
Right.
Uh, and that's why I am all on board for trying to brainstorm ideas that allow me to do that. And that's where this was born in general, was the philosophy that I need to get more for the same amount of effort. Uh, so I needed to, and when I looked around and saw Vinted and I saw, car boot sales and I saw charity shopping, I was like, none of these look like what I want. So I'm going to have to start thinking of other stuff. And then generally the idea was like a local flyer at first, or I might just throw this around and hope someone offers me to come to their house and do stuff for them. And again, I'm also a good ideas guy. Implementing it, I'm not as strong at. uh, but what happened was I was charity shopping. I was talking to one of the ladies in the charity shop, and she was asking me questions about being a reseller. And then she was like, "Oh, my friend." Oh, she said, "I used to have a boutique," and I was like, "Interesting," because previously she told me she had a tanning and nail salon, and I was like, "Okay, where does the boutique fit into this?" She's like, "Out the back of my shop."
Yeah,
In the nail and tanning salon, I had a boutique
that's
for
cunning.
customers to sell on commission for customers in my shop
Yeah.
because they would come in. They had stuff that I can't. She told me how it started, and I can't remember, which is rude of me. But it was really, really interesting to me. I was like, "That's a crazy idea," and she was like, "Yeah, it's pretty successful." Um, And people would stop, the more they saw, the more people would bring me stuff to sell for them. And I started having to be very picky with what I'd allow in and what not allow in. And because people saw it, again, the word of mouth grew, and everyone that came into my shop, normally the people that were coming to my status of shop, had the money for the nicer things generally. And then she was like, then my friend wanted to start a house. She is a personal stylist, and she started advertising in my shop about being a personal stylist. And what she ended up doing was called she was called declutter something or something like that. And she was like, what my friend did was she'd go to people's houses, clear out their entire wardrobe of stuff, and then go buy a whole new wardrobe for them. And these women would just give her a budget, and which was massive, and she'd just tootle down the street and pick up all whatever she wanted to put in these women's wardrobe that was now in fashion, and this last season gone. And I was like, what happened to the stuff that she cleared out? Like, where did that go? Because if you've just got getting rid of this high-end wardrobe, where's it going to go? She's like, oh, I can take that and donate it. Or you can deal with that if you want. And most of the time, they're like, oh, just get rid of it. Because, I don't want it anymore. I need the space. And I was like, well, I'm not a personal stylist. But the rest of the idea sounds great.
Sure.
Uh, and that kind of spawned like the actual idea of going to wealthy people's houses specifically, kind of. Because again, if I was just giving out flyers and anyone could contact me, you're going to get all sorts of stuff all the time. And I was like, how did she grow her business? How did that work? And she was like, oh, it started with a flyer in my thing, and then a few people, and then word of mouth. But since then, and she has a really successful business doing it. So I'm like, word of mouth through the people I want is going to be the most valuable thing. That's what I want. I want that word of mouth between the right customers. So yeah, I then went to another charity shop, which is in a wealthier area, and I pitched my idea to the ladies in that shop. Because I wanted to, again, I had these thoughts, I had these problems. I actually pitched it to the group second, actually. And Rachel from your side, said she'd done it sometimes. And then I think Josh, or no, someone else, Lee, said he did it with toys. Like that's what most of his business came from that. I was like, okay, so clearly this is a very viable option in terms of stock. And then Rachel gave me a few pointers. And then I pitched it to the women in the shop. And I was like, okay, I have these concerns that I need to iron out before I actually try and do this. Because again, one of the first things that they said is I would be nervous with a random man coming around my house that I didn't know. Fair enough. like fair enough. That's a situation that's again hard to navigate. So how do I get over that? And then what can I do to put them at ease once I get there? What can I do to make it feel easy and fluent for them, so I don't have to like go through loads of steps or ask them loads of questions or be like intrusive in any way. And then I started talking to them, and all the women in the shop are great. Like they're like three different types of women with like three different brains and all really smart in their own way. Like one's like a massive people person, one's like a really intellectual, and then one's like a just that brings the sort of best out in everyone and kind of business minded. And they all gave me ideas. And then she was like, I'm willing to let you try this at my house. And I was like, perfect. And that's kind of how we got there in the end. And I did that, I think, last Friday. And then as we were going through, I was discussing with her, okay, how do you feel about kind of this? And, oh, this is a bit different to how I wanted it to go and blah, blah. And I feel like I now have a very good idea of doing this for the future. I just, again, need to implement it, which is, again, a struggle point sometimes. But get there.
So what you're illustrating here is going from Vinted, charity shops, the car boot. Oftentimes that is sourcing one by one by one by one by one, especially the Vinted model. Most oftentimes the charity store model, the thrift store model. Maybe you find 2 or 3 per stop, whatever. Now you're trying to go into the stage of the business where you are going to get tens or maybe 100 pieces in a stop. And why are you trying to make that switch? What was kind of the light bulb that said, you know what, this method has been fine, but maybe it's going to become too slow? Do you see a cap? What is the advantage of doing it this way?
So the time trade-off is just so valuable. So a massive problem with especially charity shopping. Car boot selling is not as bad because it's more condensed, right?
Hmm.
And you get a lot more value there. I'm sure it's the same with flea markets versus thrift sometimes.
Yeah.
But charity shopping is which is my main go-to, partly because I like how it operates. Like I like going out, and again, like I said, with doing comp research on Vinted, my brain goes dead. I'm staring at this screen, I'm concentrating for like a couple of hours, and at the end of it, it just feels bad. Like I don't want to be doing that. It's not time for and it's still a time suck. Like you still
Yeah.
have to concentrate
Sure.
the whole time, and you still might end up not being as successful as you want to.
Yeah.
Uh, so the parts of this business realistically are sourcing, processing, photographing, listing, parcel sending, delivery. Um, Everything else except stock sourcing isn't that time consuming. It can be if you make it, but
Sure.
with clothes especially, it's very simple for the most part. The second most bit that I'm trying to sort out at the moment is processing, but that's another story. But generally, stock sourcing, if you're looking at ratios, I spend, you know, 6 hours doing that for like 1, 2, maybe 3 hours of all the rest combined.
Right.
Uh, so if you can figure out how to, switch the proportions a bit, because this is where in my opinion, the value is
You're
made
right.
in the listing and the photographing, and that's
Absolutely.
where the value is made. Because I can buy all I want.
Absolutely.
If I don't do any of the rest, I'm just gonna have a pile of stuff.
Absolutely.
Um, so how do I spend more time doing the thing that's gonna make me more money?
Yep.
And yeah, I could but get more stuff and just spend more time in total,
Total.
But
Yeah.
again, don't want to do that. So I need to figure out how to transfer the time. So I
Yep.
basically need to condense this and get the same amount of stuff in the same amount of time, or more stuff in the same amount of time, so I can make more money over here.
That's right.
Um,
And if your business was 2 hours sourcing, 6 hours listing,
oh,
you're
unbelievable.
making way more money.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like exactly. If I for example, like Hanley was on last week, right? Or I don't know how these work, but I was watching the podcast with Hanley. She gets pallets delivered, and then
Hmm.
or obviously she needs to sort, and like takes time, and she needs to find her outlet for the stuff she doesn't want. Again, is another part of the piece of the puzzle. But
Hmm.
once she's got her stuff sorted,
It's
nothing
go
else to do.
time. Yeah, it's go
Money.
time.
It's
Yeah.
money time.
Yeah.
Um, but with this, a lot of the time I found myself sometimes day to day not having enough stuff. Uh, so that fight with sourcing needs to be overcome for me to be able to make more money, because I do see it there is a cap on pretty much everything depending on how much time you want to put in. And because I am of the opinion I don't want to put in that much, like as much time to be the number one, or to grind my way to the higher limits,
Sure.
it's important I have to change and switch up how much I'm getting and
It's very, very, very
how it's
smart.
incoming.
Very smart. So when I was doing 120 a day, that was my cap. I had no more time, even if I wanted to put in more time, because I was going to 55 thrifts, and then I was going to the flea market 3 days a week, and Saturday and Sunday I was going to two flea markets. I didn't have any more time, even if I wanted to do more. And I came to the realization that you came to, was that me driving around to 55 thrifts, I'm not driving revenue. What I'm doing is just driving. I'm sitting in the line at Wendy's and McDonald's because I'm in between thrift stores because I'm thrifting for 8 hours. And when I sit my butt in the chair and I list items, that's when I begin to make money. So I need to sit my butt in the chair and list more items so I can make more money. But how do I list more items if I don't have the time to go out there and find more items? That's when I made the switch in the business and started leveraging other people's time to help me source, talking to people at the bins, gather up stuff, give it to me. And since I wasn't spending 40 hours a week driving and sourcing anymore, I took those same hours, put it into butt in the chair, and that's when I put the listings to 250. And when my listings went from 120 to 250, it's obvious the money exploded after that as well. So you're absolutely right on that. If you have 8 hours, six is spent sourcing, two is spent listing. But if you could spend six listing and two sourcing, those two businesses are astronomically different on how much money and how much profit they're going to make. So that is a very, very smart realization. And on the call last week, you asked, once, we all work on the process. We all, work on our listings, work on our photos. What do we do after that? What is our time spent in our business after that? Because once you know how to take pictures, once you know how to list, once you know how to ship, then what? What do we do? And I said that 99% of what I do for a very long time is in relationships and product acquisition. And that's what I spend all of my time doing because I don't want one. I want to do long-term business with long-term people that are going to be able to have 100 pieces a week for me, 25 pieces, 50 pieces, 1,000 pieces. And that's what I spend the majority of my time doing is building the relationships and acquiring product. Because once you have your photo process down, you don't have to refine that. It's done. Put a fork in it. It's over. The continuous amount of effort for a business that becomes mature, as yours is spending time getting the relationships, spending time getting the product, but we're not spending 6 hours on the onesies, twosies. We're spending 6 hours on 600 at any given time. And then that way we can set our butt in the chair and we can list them.
Mm-hmm. With with what firstly I thought what I find funny is that this business, which you'd view as a reselling as a whole, would you'd view as like a very solo, do it by yourself, you don't socialize kind of business a lot of the time, or a lot of people would anyway,
Mm-hmm.
ends up becoming a people business.
Totally.
A people business. And
Yeah.
it's that if you want to push yourself further, if you want to achieve more things, you've got to work on your people management skills and your interpersonal relationships and stuff like that. Which is funny because I feel like a lot of businesses follow that path.
Mm-hmm.
That you end up in that place. But with that, do you think if you are someone who is not good at any of that, you're stifled as a reseller? So say you're a massive introvert and you have a big problem talking to people, and you say you just can't get past it, right? Obviously, you can put in loads and loads of work, go to therapy, blah 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 blah, to try and get past those sort of problems. But is reselling for you to a higher level? Because anyone, I think at a basic level, reselling is for everyone, and especially if you just want to make a couple of extra hundred, couple of extra thousand, you can do that easily, in my opinion, with a good bit of work. Um, but do you think at the higher levels, those people still have this, are capable as people who are used to being extroverts and talking and have those skills?
It's funny that you say that. If I was a member of this group, I would be a silent member and I would never say anything and I would listen. I
Mm-hmm.
know it's hard to believe that, but I come on here and I perform a job. So my job is to talk and my job is to run the calls, but I'm the person that you described. I am not outgoing. I have two ears and one mouth. I'm the person that listens. I listen and then I gather the information and then I then know how to navigate. I never in school raised my hand. I never in school put myself out there. That's not me. But I know when I'm doing this, I have to perform a job. And by me performing a job, I put on my uniform. And my part of me performing my duty and performing my job is me being able to talk to people. So when I go to the flea market, I promise you, I do this every single time. When I drive to the flea market, I drive like this, my hat up like this. When I go to the flea market, I go like this. I'm at work. That's my uniform.
Sick.
This is my
Okay.
uniform when I go to work.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when I ride, I'm riding around like this. I'm doing this. When I go to the flea market, I go like this and I walk through the gate. I'm at work. And this right here is the trigger that I need to be the person because I'm at work. So I will never be the person that does what Hanley does and drives to all the places and drops off donuts and introduces herself. That's not me. It's not me. When I was starting up my tree service, I used to knock on the doors and sell jobs. That's not me. But I am doing my job, and part of this job is doing this. When I go live on YouTube, that's the last thing in the world that I want to do. But I have a job to do.
Okay. Three questions. Firstly, how did you learn to do it? So you say you just, oh, this is the trigger and then I'm good to go. But realistically, people are going to look at you and be like, what the f are you talking about?
I
Um,
have no choice. It's my job. I have
yeah,
no choice.
people,
For me, that's what works. I have no choice. This is my job.
y- okay. But this is say I get that, but there's going to be people out there 100%. And again, I'm not like I'm more of a outspoken
You're a
person,
social butterfly. This is easy for you.
but
But Benji, if you work at McDonald's, I don't want to flip the burger. It's too damn bad. That's your job. You have to do it.
now is the difference between it being your job and being capable of doing your job. Because I can say you can put me in any situation and say, do this, this is your job. And if I tell you I don't know how to do this, I've never learned how to do this, I'm incapable of doing what you're telling me to do,
Sure,
then you're stuck. Like if
sure.
say it is stupid, but obviously the flipping the burger is much simpler. But if you're in the same principle, if someone just doesn't believe they can flip the burger or
Hmm.
doesn't is incapable of flipping the burger for some reason, their arm doesn't work,
That's
uh,
right.
then how does that person learn to put the hat on and do the job?
Excellent. So when you see me at the flea market, this is the 20 years almost of going to the flea market version that you're seeing, where I'm very smooth, I'm very suave, I know how to
Oh
navigate.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
why I don't have to negotiate because I already know what's going to happen because I've been there for so long. I don't go after items, I don't pick up items where I already know what the price is. 99% of items that I pick up at the flea market, I already know the price because I've gone so long, I've bought so many items, I've interacted with so many people. The beginning of me trying to do this was a train wreck. It was ridiculous. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have my script. I didn't have my banter. I didn't have my greetings. All of that stuff, just like if you were a salesman or if you had a job in sales, when you have to cold call someone, you have a script. When I go to the flea market, I have a script. If I'm meeting with someone and I'll go, ¿Qué pasó? I say it in a funny way because I'm a gringo, but they get a kick out of that. And I go, Mas ropa aquí. I say it in a funny way, but they respect me that I have learned a little bit of the language to get on the level to do a deal in Spanish. They respect that. And that helps me. Did I have that confidence in the beginning? Absolutely not. Do I do deals in Spanish every single weekend now? Absolutely, I do. It's the same thing. Hey, how much is this item? Do I present it like it's the holy grail? In the beginning, I used to, and I noticed that the price was too high when I presented it as the holy grail. Now, if I just go like this and not maintain eye contact and keep looking at something on the table, and I go, how much is this? And I kind of just put it like this, the price is much lower. As if I go, Benji, how much is this 1947 Topps rookie card of Jackie Robinson? The price is much higher. Where if you just go, how much? And then they go, oh, that's $2. So, like, the body language was learned. The dealing with people was learned. The how to talk to different people, different kinds of ways. So, like, if it's a mom out there with 3 kids, I'm going to approach that deal differently. If it's a guy who is a roofer, I can ask him about stuff. I can get on the same level, and I can also ask the mother about stuff and get on the same level with her. But all of that is just trial and error. When I did this one time, I didn't get the result that I wanted, so I'm going to stop doing this. When I did this one time, that deal worked out pretty good. Let me put that one into the toolbox and let me keep using that one over and over again. So
Are
in the
you
video
real?
that I did, the
Mm.
video that I did that I released on Monday, I went to San Francisco. That's 3,000 miles from my house, 6 hour flight. I walk into this building, 23 million people a year visit San Francisco. I walk into this building. I see they have some dead stock vintage hats, some dead stock vintage shirts, some dead stock vintage liquid blue in a shirt that in a store that has tourist shirts, San Francisco tourist shirts, Alcatraz prison tourist shirts. But they have these little things that I'm starting to see a vintage liquid blue Star Wars shirt worth 300 or 400 bucks, brand new. It's been there since 1996. A vintage champion San Francisco 49ers football sweater that's been there since 98. I'm seeing all these little things. And I know if they have some out front, they have some in the back. It's my job to get into the back room. How do you get into the back room without looking like you have a treasure trove, a gold mine here? Something's up. Let me pump the brakes and not let this guy that I just met 5 minutes ago in the back room. You have to learn how to navigate the deals. You have to maybe buy 1 or 2 items, crack a joke, get relatable, tell them, look, I'm a professional, not in those words, but show them. And then lead them, ask them questions that's ultimately going to get exactly where you want to be. So at first, this was what was presented to me in the store. I went there the first day, did good business, don't negotiate, paid a fair price. And he said, and I said, do you have any more? Yeah, we have more. Okay, what is the process of getting more? Come back to the store, look through, tell me what you want. I'll bring you more of what you want. That's not what I want. I want to go to where it all is. I don't want to go through the store and say, bring me 10 of these. And I said, okay, no problem. Came back the next day. Come back the next day. I asked him questions that he would answer that would lead me to where I wanted to go. So ultimately, where I wanted to go was in the back room where I already knew was in the deepest, darkest, most rat infested, water on the ground hallway. I already knew that that's where it was going to be. I had to ask him questions to lead me to where that was going to be. So, is this all you have? Is there more? Do you have a back room? Is there overstock? Where do you keep the extras? Now we have a back room. Can I go back there with you? Sure, come on. And once you go back there, it's rock and roll time. So you kind of have to know what the end result is, and then lead the seller on their own accord, not you. You have to have the seller have it be their idea that this is a good idea for this transaction to take place.
So this leads me to, okay. So
And this is a guy who's an introvert.
yeah, but it's so interesting here to talk because that is so everything you say in terms of how you learn to speak to people and that and even going back to when you talked about how you researched, right? Which was I I programmed myself to learn these things.
Mhm.
And basically like for example with the research, you were like, "Oh, I did this once and that worked and this didn't, so then I did that more."
That's
Uh
right.
but with that, do you how do you actually feel about interacting with people then? Because obviously you say yourself you're an introvert. What you're basically saying is persuasion and manipulation of a situation. In
To
my
some
opinion.
extent, but not in a negative manner.
Yeah, it's a necessary part of business a lot of the time to
Right.
be able to steer a conversation in the direction you want it to go.
And
Uh,
and even this conversation, Benji, I'm asking you questions that I already know the answer to, so we can go into the next thing.
yeah, of course. The issue becomes when that feels unnatural.
That's
So
right.
so when you're asking so what you also have to master with that is not just asking the question because oh this should lead into this and this should lead into this. You need to ask the question in a style or a way that allows the conversation to feel fluent rather than because you can ask me a question, right? But if you show absolutely no interest in what I'm saying after that, and all you wanted was the outcome of the next question or the next
That's right.
question, it's
Can't be
going to feel horrible.
self-serving. Right.
It's going to feel like a horrible conversation. You're going to be like, clearly this guy only wants this from me. And so you've got to learn to do that in a very natural way. How do you think that's impacted you as the person you were before? So obviously you say you have the work hat, right? And before you weren't a extrovert or you're a very introverted person, but you put on the work hat and you can be who you need to be. Um, has that has learning those things changed who you were originally before becoming this person? Does that make
Um,
sense?
yeah, I was always very quiet. My entire life, I was a quiet kid. I was very quiet. Um, am I more outgoing now? I can't say that I am. I am just as happy running all of my errands, not talking to anybody and coming home. Now, when I do engage in conversation, I think that my skills have gotten much better when the opportunity does arrive where there is engagement. But I am not the one to seek out engagement. That's not me. But once there is engagement, I do think that reselling and all of this practice and talking to all of these people, running the calls, talking to people like you that ask challenging questions that make me think, because it's all a chess game. Like every single question in the group at some level is to disprove what I'm talking about.
Interesting.
At some level, it's my job to play the chess game to show you why it's true. So
Mhm.
all of that as a challenge, and that's healthy, and I understand it, and I'm grateful for it. Where and everything should be questioned. So like, if a lie is unquestioned, it becomes the truth. I learned that a long time ago. So, like, if someone's bamboozling you, when you ask them questions, they will expose themselves very quickly. So, like, the questions, I love it, but it's my job to use the chess pieces to show you that it's actually the correct answer. And Benji, you've been on the calls for a long time. I get asked a million questions. How many answers do I give?
A million.
No, I give zero answers.
Well,
What I do is ask questions
okay.
back to you guys
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
way you guys come to the answer and go, you know what? That was true.
Hmm.
So the group has helped me a lot with that aspect of well, of trying to find that maze to lead you as people that are learning, to lead people that are trying to sell to me, and then for me as a buyer trying to navigate that maze and think 3 or 4 steps ahead where it does seem natural to do these huge deals because there's a lot of times where you go and you find people that have an enormous backstock and they're hoarders. They have reservations against selling. And you might encounter some of this as you're doing the house calls. They might have reservations against selling. It's up to you to figure out this roadmap to get them to feel good about selling you items and walk away that this was a positive experience. This guy didn't come over and bamboozle me. Even though you came over and you paid the exact price that you wanted to pay, you have to make it feel like a satisfactory experience. So when I went to San Francisco, I cleaned out the entire back room. The guy was ecstatic about it. So much so that he said he has another warehouse 60 miles away that I'm welcome to go to at any time. And I paid the price that I wanted, and I got only the items that I wanted. It was a satisfactory experience to him. Now, in your instance, he would tell his neighbor, he would tell his friend, hey, this guy
Hmm.
Benji came through and gave me a satisfactory experience. It was professional. I felt great about this transaction. I think that you should give it a try. That's what we all have to do from an individual eBay listing. Our listing needs to portray that this is going to be a satisfactory transaction for you in the benefit of you, the buyer. It doesn't benefit me. This is going to benefit you by you clicking this button and you making this purchase. That is all of our jobs with everything. Even with our spouse, we have to sell ourselves to our spouse when we first meet them that being together is beneficiary. Otherwise, they're not going to be with us. We sell ourselves in every single capacity, whether we know it or not.
So my problem with that is so what this is just going rogue now with spouses. But the idea of selling yourself is it can be done in two fashions, right? I can sell someone that isn't me, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you can sell someone. I can pretend to be whoever I like to be.
That's right.
But the realistic thing is that's not who I am. And you
That's
say it
right.
again, you put on the work hat. That's not you. The you is the listening, quiet, getting on with what he needs to get on with. Doesn't really not going to reach out to anyone type thing. And with your spouse and stuff, it's stupid, but you a lot of the time hear about guys pretending to be something they're not, putting on bravado. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it could probably cross over into the selling game, right? Uh, but you don't want to have you don't want to sell something that isn't real,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you're talking or trying to navigate the situation to where you want it to be, and asking them questions to lead a conversation, you want to be real, right? Like,
Absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely.
and I think that with this again the spouse thing, a lot of comes to my mind about boys like younger guys just showing off and saying all sorts of
Of
stuff to try
course.
and get with a woman,
Exactly.
and then you find out like once you start doing anything seriously, oh, they're a completely different person to who they said they were.
And gone. And it's the same thing. Like if I would have went to that dead stock dig in San Francisco, and let's say they had $200 million worth of inventory, and I'm over here acting like a big shot. When it comes
Yeah,
time
you're
to
gonna
sign the
take it
check,
all.
I'm out of luck. So you have to still maintain, the level of where you're at. But fortunately, the level that I'm at, I was above the level of that deal and I was able to do it. So like for you, when you go to, let's say you go to Posh Spice's house, you better be honest and say, you know what, I can't afford
I
40
haven't got the
million dollars in
facilities for
clothing.
this.
Yeah,
I haven't got the facilities for this.
yeah.
Back onto you again, you putting on the work hat. How do you think that's because a lot of people will say that sort of thing is draining, right? Like pretending to be something you're not every day for your job. it is a very draining experience a lot of the time. You'll hear that's one of the number one complaints at work, like from retail people, where they have to put this smile on and be like, "Yeah, no problem," even though they're really annoyed at a customer who's saying something that they don't like. But they have to smile, they have to do
Hmm.
good customer service and stuff like that. And then they come home and they're dead. They're like, I hate everything. I hate my job, and all sorts of stuff. So how do you deal with that? And because again, you're a very interesting, unique case because I think like you said before, you're wired for certain things. You're wired for eBay. You didn't put your hand up at school, but I want to look at all the eBay comps. I need to know this knowledge, which is really
Sure.
interesting in itself. And I think that's the same with me. I was I was never interested in school really, but if a subject did catch my attention, I'm all in. I want to know everything about it. I need to understand it. I need it to make sense to me. I need to know the answers. But again, if you're not wired like you, to be the number one men's clothing reseller in the UK, in the US, people are gonna find that incredibly hard. Like
In
that
the world, Benji, in the world,
in the
not in the
world.
US, in the world.
Well, I
But
guess,
this
yeah.
this is a great
Well,
example. This is a great example. I was able to excel on eBay because I'm not this person, because all I wanted to do was stay at home and list items, and I was happy and I was in my zone listing items. I was never in my zone in going out and getting the product and talking to people and forming the relationships. That's why I won the game at eBay because I was happy by myself, not talking to anyone listing items.
so the people that hate that aspect of the reselling
They
game are
struggle.
gonna struggle.
They do. And we see it. We see it.
Of course, you'll see it all the time, and the people will grow death piles, and people will again be happy to go out and buy and do these things, but then they don't want to do the bit that they're not comfortable with, which is the processing and listing type thing.
Mhm.
Do you so do you does that again same sort of question? Do you think you say you end these calls by saying be great,
That's
right?
right.
And I have two questions. What do you mean by that? And do you think everyone needs to be great?
I say be great because that's what I've always told my son every single time he got out of the car to go to school.
Hmm.
So if we can choose to be anything, just choose to be great.
What if you can't be great?
Everyone can be great at something.
Okay, so reselling, right? The person who struggles to do the processing is never going to be the best, in my opinion, right? Like you can probably work it out and finagle it, and you can get there, but they're never going to be you. Uh, so they can't be the number one. And do do you think everyone needs to strive for that level?
No.
What do you what again? So be great. When you say be great, what if someone's just average? What what
But everyone is great at something. Whatever that something is, be great at that. It doesn't have to be monetary. It doesn't have to be. Be a great person.
I
That's
agree with
it.
that.
That's it. Just be great. That's it. And for me, when my feet hit the floor, people say, "How do you do this? How do you do this? How do you find the mental fortitude? How do you do all of this?" My only mission every single day when I hit the floor is to be great. That's it. And if that is your threshold, if that is what you're striving for to be great, then your entire life changes because you don't settle for mediocre, you don't settle for good. If you strive to be great, then your expectations are so much higher than everything else. So when my feet hit the ground, my expectation for the whole day is to be great. And Benji, if you and I were sweeping the floors, I would be great at sweeping floors. It doesn't matter what the widget is. I just want to be great. When Arwen came over here and we kicked the soccer ball, I never kicked a soccer ball in my life. I could have okey doked it. I tried to be as great as I possibly could day one soccer player. I just want to be great in every single capacity of anything that I do. This podcast, I want it to be great.
Mhm.
Driving in the car, I want to do a great job driving in the car. Whatever it is, I just want to do as best as I possibly can, put forth the amount of effort so that way I could be great at what I'm doing, no matter what it is.
So when
Digging
you
a
get
hole, I want to dig a great hole, Benji.
yeah, I get the point. Yeah, one, you want to be great, and two, you're very competitive. You want to,
I am that as well.
uh, but okay. So w with that, right? Again, I feel like it can lead. So now you've achieved eBay, right? And you did your timeline and you hit the point where you wanted to hit, and that was it. Uh, how do you feel now? How do you feel now it's over? And how do you, because there's something that worries me, is say if I push myself in that way, you see it with athletes a lot, right? They hit the pinnacle, they do the Olympics, and then they're depressed. And they
Hmm.
leave and they're like, what do I do now? I've focused on this one thing forever. And I hit it, and now what? So
Hmm.
with reaching the pinnacle of business for you, uh, and now you say you're relaxing, or you're not as. I feel like you've ventured into different avenues a little bit. Uh, but how does it feel now? And coming down from that, what are you striving to be great in? Obviously, you want to do it in everything, but I'm assuming that at the time was your main focus. Like eBay was your baby as such, and that's where your real you wanted to be the best at. Does
Very
that have
good.
you come away from that, and have you felt any different stopping that, and how's that impacted what you do day to day now?
Very good. We can go for a ride, Benji. You want to go for a ride?
I love riding. Let's go.
All right. So the difference between us and athletes, athletes retire at 35. We don't have to retire as business owners. So
Hmm.
Sidney Frank, he started Grey Goose at 77 years old, built it into $1 billion operation. When I started eBay, my number one thing with eBay is I wanted to have the best eBay store. I never did eBay to make the most money. I've never come on here and said that I've done eBay to make the most money. Never. I did eBay to have the best eBay store. On April 15th, 2021 is when the listing quality report came out. And that was the best day and that was the worst day of my eBay career because that confirmed that I was number one in every single category. So after I achieved number one in every single category, on April 14th, my eBay business was an asset. It was something that I was working towards and something that I was building. On April 15th, 2021, my eBay business became a liability. Because after I achieved number one status, that's it. My eBay business is done. And it became a liability. Why? Because me listing 250 items a day and selling 250 items a day makes me X amount of dollars. Every single day, I was turning away inventory because all I needed was 250 pieces. I don't need 500 pieces. I just need 250. No, thank you. I can't do this deal. I was striving to be number one. I was striving to have the best eBay store. Every single day after I achieved my goal of having the best eBay store, and I was only listing 250 pieces, that was a liability monetarily. So now that I became number one, check. Now it's time to get the money. So now getting the money, yesterday I sold 4,000 pieces of clothing. I made $2.60 per piece. I made over $10,000 yesterday in profit without the eBay machine. I didn't have to ship on time. I didn't have to photograph, didn't have to list. My entire goal in life is building up what I call the infinite money loop. That was my entire goal. So stepping back from eBay, still utilizing clothing as a vehicle to make money, to get into this infinite money loop, I'm not finished. eBay was just a proper stepping stone to get to the next place where I can go to the next level. So my entire life, all I want to do is create what I call in my head infinite money loops. Everything that I have, this beautiful house, 5,000 square feet, I have a 2014 Honda Accord. I can afford a Lamborghini. I can afford a Ferrari. I can afford a Bugatti. I drive a 2014 Honda Accord. I could buy a humongous house. This is a very large house. This is the Honda Accord of what I can afford. I have kept my expenses very low. I have made a lot of money. Every single thing that I own, that Honda Accord, this house, this hat, this shirt, this computer, was bought and paid for with eBay money. All of my bills, my son's bills, my wife's bills, if my mom needs money, all of that comes from my eBay income. I have never grown my lifestyle anywhere close to the income that eBay brings me. I am very low underneath my means, which gives me extra money to invest into real estate, invest into a tree service, invest into a lawn service, invest into a sprinkler company, invest into a pool service, invest into a brick and mortar store. All of that gives me money to invest and start all of these other businesses, invest and start acquiring real estate. Now, if the only money that I live off of is my eBay income, When I make a sale at the brick and mortar store, where does that money go?
Into investments, I'm guessing.
That money goes right back into investments. When I make money cutting grass, when I make money cutting down a tree, when I make money on this podcast, all of that money goes back into this money loop to acquire more investments. So every single dollar that I make goes into acquiring investments. Now,
Hmm.
the investments do what? The investments make money.
Make more money. Yeah,
So with that money, what happens? It goes
yeah.
back
Back
into
into
the
making
money
more
loop.
money. Yeah.
So my entire goal is not, I need X amount of dollars before I can do something. I need to do X. My entire goal from here on out, and this is a game that I can never win, is expanding this infinite money loop bigger and bigger and bigger, with more money being kicked off and more money being invested, while I don't have to bust my ass as much every single day. So when the rent gets paid, sure, I have to manage that. There is some form of management in managing real estate. When the cash register at the store rings, I have never rung the cash register at the store. When the grass is getting cut right now and the checks come on the first, I'm not cutting the grass. So I have built this infinite money loop where I don't have to work as hard and I'm making more money. Look at my face. I am not a fool. I didn't step away from eBay and millions of dollars to take a L. I didn't. I will make more money not selling on eBay than I did selling on eBay. There was never a day where I had a $10,000 day on eBay. I have a $10,000 day every single day wholesaling clothing. So this infinite money loop, that's my game. That's what drives me. And I have these little loops in everything. So me starting YouTube is a little loop. The YouTube videos allows me to go to the flea market to acquire product. The acquisition of product goes into wholesale, which makes me money. The videos that show me acquiring product and show me talking about eBay acquires customers for the group. The group therefore makes me money. The videos that I make when I'm in San Francisco acquiring product and making educational videos are 100% tax deductible. So my vacations are monetized. My vacations are tax deductible. My vacations are acquiring product that I can make a profit on. My vacations are acquiring customers that will then join the group. And all of that is a circular loop of income. Now, if I can grow that loop, things get better. So all I want to do, and I've utilized eBay as a vehicle to do this, is get money, revenue, profit into this loop that can then make more money to put back into the loop, and the loop gets stronger. That's all I ever tried to do. That is my mission. That is my goal in life.
Do you know what my next question is?
Please.
Why?
That's what fuels me, man. That is the fuel is this. In ninth grade, in geometry class, it was a red book. I opened it up, and it was the first day of school. And the page that I opened up to that says real world application of what you'll learn in this chapter, it said real world application of what you will use in this chapter is you will use what you learn today in interplanetary space travel. Benji, I am never going to be a pilot interplanetary space travel. I'm never going to do that. So what I did that day is I respectfully told the teacher, because I struggle with algebra. I'm okay with geometry. I struggle with algebra because algebra is not real. I can't grasp that. I'm very black and white. Geometry, no problem. Bang. I know what a triangle is. I could see it. Algebra, where it says solve for an unknown number, clock out. No, thank you. I'm a realist. I don't play in fantasy land. I can't do it. When I told the teacher that day and said, hey, I'm going to struggle with this, and I have two choices. One, I can come in here every single day and I can struggle and I can fail the class because it's hard for me to understand this. I can't do it. Or I can come in here and not bother a single person. I'm going to do my homework for every other class during your class. I'm never going to do your work, and I'm going to get a 0 in your class. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to summer school, and summer school is akin to babysitting. And if you show up at summer school and you do the work, they'll give you a C. And I'm not going to struggle for 1 year in your class. I'm going to go to summer school for 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks, I'm going to get a C. And she told me I might be one of the smartest students that she ever had. And I said, I'm not going to bother anyone. I'm not going to cause a disturbance, but I sure as hell am not going to come in here and struggle and not understand this and fail when the alternative is I can show up in summer school for 2 weeks, get a participation grade of a C, and I can go on and live my life. So that taught me was there's not one way to find success. What you need to do is find success that's the best for you. And success that's the best for me is this entire game, because I have no education past high school. I had a son.
Hmm.
Maybe if I went to college, maybe I would be smart enough to be a CEO, but I never had that opportunity to do so. But me finding stuff undervalued on eBay, selling it for more money, just like you illustrated at the beginning of the podcast, that is akin to sitting in algebra class, not doing anything, and then getting a C for showing up 2 weeks. It's a glitch in the matrix. It's an exploit in the system. And
Hmm.
every single thing that I do, I feel is an exploit in the system. When we talked about I do the least amount of work for the most amount of money, Benji, I promise you, I'm chilling for the amount of money that I am making. I should
Oh,
be working way harder than this.
oh, I don't know. That's well, I think the reason
Benji, in order for me to make the money that I'm making, I should be a CEO of a 500 Fortune
no,
500
but
company
you
working
shouldn't.
1,000 hours a week.
No, you shouldn't because you 100% you'll there's probably lots of other people making money the same way you do, which is the infinite money loop, right? And that is a that if you want to talk about the goal for everyone, I think that's most people's goals. The ability to get there is a very different story. But if you're talking about an understanding of financial like education, that's the goal. Everyone wants investments that make more money, so and then you put that back into more investments that makes more money, and people just want to sit and do nothing. And you're
Well,
not sitting
here's
and doing
here's
nothing.
the cheat, Benji. The cheat is you put $5 into eBay
Yep.
and you get $20 out. That's the cheat.
Yeah.
And the cheat on a higher level is you put $100,000 into a piece of real estate and the bank will give you $500,000 worth of an asset.
Hmm.
So it's the same thing, just on a much smaller individualized level.
So eBay is the cash flow business, right? That's like the massive
Multiply
event.
of money business. That's it.
Yeah, fair. Do you think that is that's do you think that's the best vehicle still, or is there a point where eBay becomes not the best cash flow or money multiplier anymore? And at what level do you feel like when you're in your journey, when did you feel that? When did you hit that point?
I think eBay is the best way to multiply money, period.
Really?
I have a lot of businesses. There is no business that I have or I know where you can have $1 and you can sell something for $100 on a routine basis. If you go to the car boot, you can do that on a bi-weekly or on a monthly basis at worst. Take $1 and sell something for 100.
Hmm.
Take $1, sell something for 50. Take $1, sell something for 20. Whatever it is. The margins are insane. I have never seen
I agree.
larger margins or a much bigger spread. When it becomes a liability is when you are losing money due to other opportunities because eBay is taking up your time to do those
Yeah,
opportunities.
that's what I'm
So
saying.
there were times where, and real estate moves very fast. There were times where a broker would call and say, hey, we need you to move on this in 24 hours. A lot of my real estate is about 5 or 6 hours away. I couldn't drop what I was doing on the eBay machine and go 5 or 6 hours to see this out for myself with my own eyes and check this out and submit an offer because I have to ship tomorrow. And if I don't ship tomorrow, my metrics goes down. So at some point, everything becomes a liability. And when it becomes a liability, you have to figure out how to turn it back into an asset. So since eBay is the best way to multiply money, you buy stuff low, you sell it high. It's the first thing we talked about. That's how you figured out eBay was a great thing. You
Hmm.
buy stuff low, you sell it high. You don't have to utilize eBay to do it. This is not the eBay Greatness podcast. It's not the eBay Greatness group. This is the Reseller Greatness podcast, the Reseller Greatness group. I don't care if you go on eBay. I don't care if you go on Poshmark. I don't care if you go on whatnot. I don't care where you do it. The money is just as green. The principles and the process are the same. So for me, buying low, these clothing by the hundreds or the thousands at a time, putting it into a pallet, I am still multiplying my money. Now, is it on a less percent basis than the one into $100? Sure. But there's no other business where I can get a 50% return on my money in 24 hours. And that's basically what I do. I get inventory in today. I'm spending $4. I make $2.60 profit and it's out the door in one day. It's the same principles, the same multiplication of money. And now, since the margin is smaller, the quantity has become larger. And the quantity, there's no ceiling to the amount of quantity. Because one day I've been on this microphone and I've said thousands of things, and not one thing has been BS or been cap. One day I will sell 25,000 pieces of clothing per day
Interesting. So
at
you
$2.60 profit. One day I will do that. Will
so
I ever do that on eBay.com? Never.
mm, do you so your goal hasn't changed in my when I heard or most of us heard or what that you were shutting down the eBay store and kind of going and I've seen the wholesale kind of come into fruition and like you said to Hanley, right? I think you
I've been
practiced way
practicing for a
before.
year and a half.
Your I thought that was gonna be a I'm winding down, I'll do what, wholesale on a more casual level. But you've just switched your reselling business, is what you're telling me.
No,
Yeah,
it's more casual for me.
yeah, I agree with that. But in terms of like, so shutting down eBay to me was the equivalent of I'm stopping reselling, right?
No, no,
Uh,
no,
and,
no, no. It's more casual for me. When I
Mhm.
was doing eBay, that required me to not go 30 minutes from my location because I had to make sure these items got shipped.
I
That
understand.
required me to be hands-on with all the employees. That required me to still be every single day working on the machine to coordinate the dance. Took a lot of my time. If I don't want to ship a pallet today or the guy doesn't want to sort today, we do it tomorrow. I can be in San Francisco like I was, and we can still ship out 2 pallets a day. There's no penalty if someone gets a flat tire or if someone gets a car battery broken down if their pallet doesn't ship today. So the casualness is the amount of time that I have to do. So there will become a time again where I leave my house and go to the UK for 6 months, and my reselling business will not only survive, but my reselling business will thrive and it will flourish and it will increase and it will get better, and I will not have to be here. So essentially, and also there's two different things. There is a difference between active income and there is a difference between passive income. They're taxed at two different rates. And the amount of time that you spend working, that is active income. Where if you are not working, you have managers in place and you have all of this kind of stuff. All of that stuff is taxed at a different rate. So I don't want to work. I can't do it. I need to be in the UK and we need to be sending out 10 pallets a day. And if it has to get sent out tomorrow because someone got a flat tire, that's no problem. Don't make any mistake, Benji. From here on out, we are on easy streets and
That's
my income will go up.
Yeah, so that's what I mean, right? Like I appreciate that this business is much more like it it's better for your whole life, like lifestyle wise and how you want to live and what you want to achieve. The wholesale business is a much better
Mhm.
vehicle than being in the eBay machine all the time.
That's
But
right.
all I was trying to say was basically my perspective was that you were trying to stop reselling, which is not the case. Your case is you have switched what you resell and you just said you still want to grow, which is what is really interesting to me. Because in my head, what I've heard and what I've seen is talk about I'm retiring from eBay. And in my head, that correlates to I'm retiring from, business as such. And I want to chill and kind of do whatever I'm going to do. But that's not what's happened at all in the
No,
background.
retiring from eBay is 100% the truth.
Yeah, I know
It's
that.
finished. It's finished. But I
Hmm.
would be a fool to walk away from the multiplication of money machine. So the multiplication of money machine is only going to multiply more money
Hmm.
with less intensive hands-on from me because of people and processes.
Yeah. So the path I'm kind of going down here is I you're doing it now and you got I've seen you go on your YouTube adventures and you head to San Francisco and you've been to you go to Disneyland and stuff like that or whatever it is. I think it's Disney World in Florida. I
Mm-hmm.
might be wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought you put in the 15 years of graft to or hard work to get to the point where you've made the infinite money loops, right? And they are then meant to serve you. In my head, the point of the infinite money loops, the point of the money, the point of all of it is to serve what you want to do, uh, outside of creating money. Uh,
That's right. And
but
and perfect, perfect. But if we can do the example like an athlete plays till they're 35 years old and then they retire.
Mhm.
My season isn't finished. I
Mm.
retire probably when there's dirt dropped on top of me.
Yeah,
That's when I'm
I
finished.
know. I get that's probably the idea.
So for me, I need these things. Do I need to work as hard at them anymore? No. Could you create your own money loop and have it serve you enough where you don't have to do a damn thing for the rest of your life? Absolutely. That's where I'm at. I don't have to do this stuff.
I
This
know.
is the stuff that I do that is a hobby for me. Some people play golf. I make millions of dollars. That's my hobby. This is what I enjoy. This is what I like. I like deal flow. I like doing this kind of stuff. This is what it excites me. If I didn't like doing this, I wouldn't do it.
Mhm.
So for some people, they build this infinite money loop and they're done. So like some people, let's say, all right, let's say as an example, I can survive off $100,000 a year. That's where I'm comfortable at. You can save up $2 million. You can put it in the bank and you can get 5% interest in a CD or
Mhm.
some kind of account. And you
Yep.
can stop there.
Yep.
And you could live a beautiful life off $100,000 a year. So far as you don't exceed that and you stay under budget, you could live that life forever. Great. I'm not the one that stops though, because
I know.
I have unlocked all of these ways to make fantastic money and also unlocked ways for me not to have to work as hard for it. So all I get to do is think about how we can make these better. Think about who can I place into the process. Think about what kind of personnel would be a best fit for this. And I could be on a beach or at a car boot in the UK. I love going to flea markets. That's why I still go. I love going out there and finding cool stuff. I love to do that. I will go to flea markets for the rest of my life, whether I had a camera on my chest or even sold on eBay. I'll still go to flea markets. That's my hobby. That's what I like to do. If I liked golf, I wouldn't go to a flea market. I would go to the golf course on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. But I love to make money. I love to make money. That's my hobby, Benji.
Yeah, like again, I just ask because it's so interesting to me, and I'm you hear it in all sorts of ways, but my goal is what you say basically is to make enough money to the point where I'm
That's
pretty
great.
good. And don't get me wrong, I don't think I'll ever not have some sort of work that's interested to me, right? Like because I enjoy following like the entrepreneurial kind of spirit, right? Is you kind of follow your interest
Mhm.
and create a business around that or whatever the next thing is, and the next thing is, and like you said, it's like a life's a big game, right? And part
Oh,
of it
game. It's a game.
part of it is a massive money generation type thing, so you can live life the best way possible.
Because
Uh,
look, Benji, I don't need anything. I have like four shirts. I have a 2014 Honda Accord. I have this house. I don't need anything.
mhm.
I don't even need money. It's just the game. That's it.
But it's
I
fun.
don't need anything.
I get that. I completely get that. But the point where I come to is with life in general, right? Is when you get to the end of it and you look back at how you spent your time and you've played your game, which is money accumulation. I'm
Just
gonna
winning. Just winning. That's it.
winning, but winning in a specific avenue, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's it. Pumping up the
that's
scoreboard.
what you view as winning. Uh,
Yes, me.
but
And that's not the right answer
it's
for
different.
everybody, and
It's
that's fine.
different. I know, but that's why I ask a lot of questions because I'm interested as to how your brain works in that aspect. Because again, it's very different for a lot of different people. What me being one of them. So having to talk with someone who has a different view is really interesting.
Yeah.
So when you get to the end of your life, right, and you look back, and we've got one of these, and there's so many things you can experience in this block that is life.
Hmm.
Uh, and you look back and go, I spent my time making money, and you go, I didn't get to experience this thing or do this thing, or do this thing or go any of that, but I won because I made the most money. Do you think you're good with that? Do you think you look back and you go, cool, that I did life well?
Well, Benji, what is the second half of the life going to be?
Hopefully enjoying the money you've made. would be
That's
my
right. So I won the first 40 years of my life. I have won. I'm not supposed to be here. The next 40 years of my life, I will win vacation as well. I will win experiences as well. I promise you that.
good because that's kind of but that's what I was feel like I wasn't hearing. It's that
I just had to delay it because I had to get to certain points where that would be a possibility. Because what I don't want to do, and we see it all the time in America, is people work tooth and bone, retire at 70, have nothing to show for it, and can't do nothing. I never want it to be like that. So let me get it in while I'm young, create these infinite money loops. And while I'm still young, 40 years old, I'm not a dinosaur, but I'll tell you this, when we went out to San Francisco and we went out to Yosemite and we're hiking those hills, I can't do that at 60 or 65 years old. It's not going to happen. Bless their hearts for the ones that were out there doing it. I was having a tough time. I was having a tough time. So I'm 40 years old. I got a good 20, 25 years left in me to get out and get around. I promise you right now, I won in my first half of life. I will win in my second half of life, and I will win vacation. I promise you.
Okay. But, and it leads on to what again I heard you Hanley talk about last week, which was you saying you're not so good at being present in the moment when you're the one planning everything, and that you have to again you've got the schedule in your head and
Mhm.
you're planning the next steps and doing all this and this and this. Uh, and but you said I've tried you're trying to be more present and
Mhm.
experience now that you've had that feeling, right? In terms of, oh, so one, I'm assuming that means you enjoy being present more, right? Like when you actually stop and appreciate what's happening, you're enjoying it more. Uh, and does that make you look at other things or the fact that you've planned so much out and be like, oh, I wish I was a bit more present at different steps in my eBay business, or instead of just thinking about the next thing?
No, I think, and this came from when Arwen was here, and we did go to Disney World and we saw the Lion King Broadway. And
Mm.
when Arwen walked out of there, he said that was amazing, and he might have had a little tear in his eye. It is a beautiful presentation. He said that was amazing, and he said that might be the only time I ever get to experience that in my life. And he said, look at all these people. These people they save up their entire life to come from the UK to go to Disney World once, to come from California to go to Disney World once. And he said, you guys have been here 20 times this year because it's right down the road. And I said, damn, like I have seen that Lion King performance 10 times. I've seen it 10 times. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that it was any less beautiful or any less special. I just turned the corner on appreciating it. So when we went to San Francisco, I thought to myself probably every single day, can you really believe we're here? Can you really believe that's the Golden Gate Bridge? I never thought in my entire life I would see the Golden Gate Bridge. I even asked my wife, I said, can you believe we're here? Can you believe we're in California? That's me being more present in that I never thought I would get the chance. A kid who had a single mom who worked two jobs overnight, I only got to see her from 7 in the morning till she dropped us off at 8 a.m. I lived a very, very difficult life. I got a lot of knucklehead stuff when I was a kid. I had a kid when I was a kid. I never thought in a million years I would be able to go see the Golden Gate Bridge.
What point did that become a reality to you? So when at what point did you realize you could live the life that you never expected to live?
I don't understand that yet.
So when your eBay business was growing, and you always had in your head, I never thought I was going to be the guy to be able to do any of this. At what point did you go, oh, I really can do it all, and it's not. I was no I escaped. I became a person I never thought I would be. Like when did that ever happen for you?
No,
Wow.
it hasn't happened
Wow.
because and also I think that for better and for worse, maybe like we have no furniture in my house. We have a bed. Like that's all we have. We have no furniture. I have a very large house, no furniture.
Yeah.
Part of that is it serves no utility, and I am very transactional, which is very apparent.
Hmm.
But part of that also is, to me, forces me not to be finished. I'm not done. This is not finished. It's not complete. I don't use credit cards. I walk out of my house every single day with $20. That's all I have. That's all I have to my name. I have four shirts. I wear the same pairs of shoes until I literally defeat them and they fall apart. I have nothing fancy. I don't live outside of my means. I
Yeah.
don't draw attention. I don't do any of that. So all of this stuff that comes with perceived success, I have voluntarily restricted myself from it. So that keeps me grounded and helps me because as the dude who is that dude, I can be in a much different position and a much different place. So just by me using the moniker as tech online and everyone in the group, you're the greatest, your business is the greatest, this is the greatest, this is the greatest, that can get to someone's head really quickly. And you can start thinking that you are the greatest. And for me, that could very easily happen. So if they were using my real name is the greatest, the real name is the greatest, I turn off this computer, I'm the greatest.
So you're a separate person to the entity online in your own head,
When I close this computer, that world goes away.
and you become just the guy.
I'm just the guy.
That's so interesting.
Because I can let it, my personality, I can let it go in the wrong direction.
Hmm.
Where I'm Hollywood, I'm a superstar. And I never want it to be like that.
Do you think there's ever a point you'll let go of that?
No,
So you think you're going to have to keep reins on that the rest of your life?
I think so. And that's why I have nothing fancy or nothing fantastic. Because real quick, I could be that dude and I don't have to do anything or work as hard or be as good of a person.
Do you not feel so you like you said, you very confidently earlier said, I can buy a Lamborghini, I can buy a Bugatti, whatever, right?
No
Do you
problem.
not yeah, but do you not feel like you've or like that confidence, that the money you know that backs you, do you not feel like that is the same affects your brain in the same way? So do you think the fact that you know you have the money and know all this already is any different from someone going, "Oh, you're the best"? Well, why are those different things?
Because what am I utilizing that money for on a personal level that would give me the confidence about it? Right now, it's just a number on the scoreboard, it's just a number on the computer. My lifestyle has not increased at all. I'm
You
still the
know it could.
same person when I was flat broke and my son
Good.
was sleeping on the couch.
Yes. That's So that's what I'm getting at, right? Is that the fact you see your money on the scoreboard and that hasn't changed who you are,
It's separate.
even though just earlier a minute ago you spoke from yourself.
I know
I
I could do it, but
so you know it.
I've voluntarily separated
Yeah.
myself from it as I voluntarily have separated myself from all of you guys.
The split there's that's so interesting. And there's wow. Because again, that's just so interesting to me because no, you feel like you're always gonna have to control that aspect of your life. And you not think at any point you could do it in like incremental? Like
What I'm afraid of, and the best thing, there's a lot of great qualities about my wife. The best thing about my wife that makes her fit perfectly with me is every single day that I work, every single day that I wake up and I do what I want to do, every single long night, every single long day, every single sacrifice that I've had to do in order to get to this level, my wife has never one time told me that's enough. And I don't want to get to the point where I'm comfortable. And I don't want to get to the point where I'm feeling that we have enough.
so again, why? Why not? What is your fear in comfortableness and secure and feeling content? What is your fear of that? Are you just worried to not grow anymore? Are you just kind of like, I always you have a vision of yourself who is always this person that's going to push forward to greater heights. And then if you give up on that version of yours, is that if you're then comfortable and content, are you then giving up on that person that you think you are and want to be?
I think that aspect of it is true. I also think that I don't want to slow down. I want to still be all gas, no brakes.
But what drives that? What drives that? Why do you, what, that's like, this is what I struggle with because
I
I
don't
don't,
want to be finished. I don't want to be finished.
interesting.
I don't
And
want to be
you,
finished
with, and is that just in a business aspect or do
with
you,
anything. I don't want to be finished with anything.
interesting.
Because for me, I'm a completionist. That's why all of my tasks are done to completion. I never stop anything halfway. That's why I have a not a strict schedule, but my day ends when everything is done. I'm a completionist. When I complete it, Benji, I'm dead. I'm finished. It's over.
But then you have the next thing to complete.
No, I'm dead. It's finished.
No, because you just told me
When
you,
I finish everything, like when everything is finished, I'm done.
oh, but there's always another thing to complete.
Yeah, but how many other things are there? You
Oh,
eventually you run out of stuff.
yeah, but you just told me every single day, right? You don't stop working until something is complete, which means every single day there is a new thing to complete. Complete being a husband to your wife type thing. Complete
It's
another
over.
aspect of us.
I've already done that part. That
You think
part
it's? I think that's forever.
that part is finished. But
You-
you see these people, as you are trying to say, that enjoy the fruits of their labor, and that's fantastic for them. Maybe they sit on a beach every single day till they die, and they're happy with that. Great. I don't want to do that. That would be that doesn't bring me any kind of joy. And maybe there are a series of events that have happened in my life to mold me into this kind of mentality or into this kind of person. Maybe growing up from nothing, maybe there's a little bit of fear that we can go back to that, even though maybe the wealth is at a certain level where there's never going to be a chance of us going back to that. But I don't want to go back to that. Maybe seeing my mom work from 2 to 10 and then 11 to 7. I don't want to do that. I don't want my mom to do that anymore. I don't ever want my son to have to go through that. But also, coming from nothing gives you an immense amount of freedom where if everything does go wrong, you have nothing to lose. You've already been there, you've already done it. It's no problem. So maybe there's a portion of that where I don't want to rest and potentially put at risk every single thing that I've worked for the possibility of losing it all and going back to that. Maybe when my grandfather, who my mom has always told me I was just like my entire life, always. My grandfather was an accountant. He had his own accounting business, worked every single day of his life. He grew up being a milkman at 7 years old in Wisconsin, moved the family down here to Florida, and he started a little accounting business. He worked every single day of his life. He had a seizure, went back to work. When they forced him to stop working, he died 3 weeks later. And he said before he died, when I stop working, I die. Because that's what he needed every single day to keep him going. When he didn't have anything to keep him going, then it's over. So for me, if I don't have anything to keep me going, is that when it's time to clock out?
it's I guess that comes down to what you view as your reasons to keep going. So, so your for your granddad, right? It was if I can't work anymore, my reasons are done. I don't have nothing else to go for.
And my reason to keep going is guess what, Benji?
Yeah,
To keep going. That's the reason. That's all I need. My reason to keep going is just to keep going. That's it.
interesting. Bring it. Okay. Should we bring it a bit back more resettery or how we doing?
The people probably love this. But we probably got to stick a fork in this thing soon and maybe get you on for part two because we've gone nearly 2 hours. But I think it has been a
But
fascinating conversation. And that's why I wanted you to come on because I think that you're very good at talking about these discussions. And I don't share a lot personally about me because I'm on here talking about you guys and I want to put the shine on you guys and all the fantastic things that you do. So I do think people will find the conversation interesting.
I 100% agree because again, I'm in the group, right? I've been in the group. I've been in the group for probably over a year now, and the value of the group to me is not the benefit it brings to my reselling knowledge or career or whatever. It's the community around myself. Uh,
Hmm.
and it's interesting that you have led that community, or I guess we've got like a sub community in the UK, but you have led that community, and I've never, you or yourself, and I have never been able to, like, talk to you in that way, or have talked about that side of things to me, which is really interesting because it's a big mental difference I see between you and myself. It's mainly what this is about is you and me and the
Yeah.
view I have of myself and my life and what I think, and then understanding why you live your life the way you do is something I never understood, and I never there's no information about it anywhere. Like it's not something you talk about
Yeah.
very often.
And
So
I make it a point not to talk about myself in the group. I make it a point not even to talk about my business in the group. I don't even come on and tell everyone how great my business is. Never. I never even talk about it.
mhm.
I come on and just try to be educational. My videos are never even about me. My videos are about being educational and helping people. That's
Do you
it.
ever get tired of that?
No,
So
it's my job.
every I, you and your job, man.
It's
Uh,
my job. What I want to do is all of this stuff that I do, from the videos, all the calls, to the amount of effort that I put into the group. I just want to help one person. That's it.
I think you can tick that box. That's you're
That's all
good.
I want to do.
You've done well. Well done. That you've smashed that goal unbelievably. And you've probably helped at this point tens of thousands, I'm guessing, just by the online presence and stuff like that. Even a little bit. Like depends what your gauge is to help one person. You're
And
smashing.
that helps me and brings it to something else. I don't need gold chains. I don't need Ferraris. I don't need any of that. What I need to do is help as many people as possible find their version of success, and your version of success is different from everyone else, and it makes me just as happy. All of you guys are the trophies for me from here on out.
It and that's real, right? Because you said it's just a job to come and help people, but the value you bring away isn't just for your job, it's for you.
Mhm.
Nice.
That's it.
I
So
love
good chat, Benji.
nice.
We got
Thank
to
you.
come on. We got to jump on this again. What I would love to do, I'd love to get you and Hanley on this at the same time. That would probably destroy the internet. So maybe next time you jump on, maybe we can convince Hanley to jump on too, because I think
Oh,
that would be a really good conversation as well.
I'd love to. I'm more than happy. Again, it's great. Like I said before this, we've interacted probably once before this, face to face ever. So
Yeah,
I'm happy to do this whenever and have a chat and
nice, man.
reselling, life, whatever. It's cool. It's cool to
Yeah,
hear your opinion.
I like the angle that you come from. Because it's the opposite angle for me, and it's challenging for me. Like this conversation was challenging for me because I don't ever have this conversation. So that part I enjoyed. So I appreciate you, Benji. I do appreciate that. Even though we don't talk face to face, I'm always listening to the UK call, and I do appreciate the value that you bring into the call. I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate you fighting your fight and always being honest with yourself and always sticking to that and being very, very intentional with what you're doing. And I admire that because a lot of times I can let that escape from me for good and for the bad. Even though we don't talk face to face, I hear every single thing you say, and that's why I invited you on because I know you're a bright guy, and just like we all are, we're all just trying to figure it out, man. And so I appreciate you, Benji, for jumping
Thank
on.
you.
If you have some last words for these fine folks, let them know.
Wow. Well, I've got no social media. I've got nothing. I'm an enigma in the in the whole space, so I got nothing to shout out. But I guess we can end it with, like a be great.
That's it. Everybody, be great.